ויקח משה את עצמות יוסף עמו, כי ישביע את בני ישראל לאמור פקוד יפקוד אתכם, ועליתם את עצמותי מזה אתכם. Moshe took the remains of Yosef, which in itself is a big story how he found the remains of Moshe, of Yosef, but he chose to take that because that was responsibility on the Jewish people, that Yosef made them swear, take an oath, that when they left the country, which was sure they would, the Geulah would come, and they would go up to Eretz Israel, but he made them make an oath that they will take him up with them. Now, this was a mitzvah on all the Jewish people. But you know, the Jewish people had another mitzvah as well. And that mitzvah was to take wealth from Egypt, to fulfill the promise which Hashem gave to Abraham, that when they left the country, they left their servitude, they would go out beruchush gadol, with a lot of wealth. So the Jews had a choice. There were two mitzvot. There's a mitzvah of picking up wealth, gathering all the wealth, taking it with them. And there was a mitzvah, Atzmot Yosef. Moshe chose to take the mitzvah of Atzmot Yosef. Even though it wasn't on him, it was on the whole Klal Yisrael. But sometimes a person has a choice. So we have a lesson from here. The Torah praises Moshe, all the Midrashim praise Moshe for taking care of that Atzmot Yosef. It was a difficult mitzvah because they couldn't find where Yosef was buried. Moshe found that the Egyptians didn't want him to leave the country because he brought bracha, so they put him in a lead casket and put his remains into the Nile. And Moshe got Sarah bat Asher, who showed him where it was, and he managed to pull it out. Shem of Forage. He did everything which had to be done. But the lesson here is that sometimes, that when you come to, even in mitzvot, when we have two mitzvot before us, we should make the choice of taking that mitzvah, which everybody else neglects. People are not interested. It doesn't bring glamour. It's not there's not a lot of benefit, profit from it, physical, material profit. And therefore people don't do that mitzvah. You go and pick up that mitzvah. And in front of Hashem, for Hashem, that's a wonderful thing. For that you'll be greatly rewarded. Moshe was rewarded that Hashem took care of his burial personally. Hashem took it directly and buried Moshe and gave him that great chesed. The second point we must see, the mitzvah, when you look, if there's a mitzvah, sometimes we love to do mitzvahs, but there's some also material reward. Here, Moshe was doing a mitzvah which is called mitzvah chesed shel emet. We don't expect any repayment from a dead person. He's not around, we don't expect repayment. So that mitzvah is less, that's more lishem shamayim. That's a mitzvah which you do really for the sake of the mitzvah. If you do a person favors, you take wealth with you, that's you got personal benefit with that as well. And sometimes running after wealth, even when it's a mitzvah, you have to support, you have to do. It's fraught with dangers. That we find the wealth which Korach took out caused him to stand up and rebel against Moshe because he was wealthy. That's how Chazal tell us. He had a lot of wealth and he said, I wasn't appointed for this job. And therefore he stood up against Moshe. Sometimes wealth sometimes people who have a lot of wealth, the children go off because they're given all the wealth. They have no controls. But if a person does a chesed shel emet, when he does something where there's no reward, there's no personal benefit from it, that is the most secure mitzvah. And so we have two things from here. Moshe was praised because it's a mitzvah which others neglected. He took that up. And a second, it was chesed shel emet, where the mitzvah could be completely lishem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. Shabbat shalom.